Donald Trump just used peace to secure more of Africa's wealth. Just a few hours ago in Washington, a number of African presidents gathered to sign or witness a peace deal between Rwanda and the DRC. This is a conflict that has taken millions of African lives over the past decades. The world watched as this historic ceremony unfolded far away from African soil. So in this video, we're going to break down exactly what happened, the pros, the cons, of which unfortunately there are many, that every African must understand about this agreement. If you're out there and you want to understand what the new era of Western colonialism or imperialism looks like, how it operates, then this video is for you. If you don't know me, my name is TJ. I'm Nigerian and British mixed, and on this channel, we talk about African geopolitics. So just hours ago, at the United States Institute of Peace in Washington, Donald Trump hosted what he called a historic ceremony. Rwanda's president, Paul Kagame, and DRC's president, Félix Tshisekedi, were brought together to sign what is now being branded as the Washington Accords, an agreement that promises a permanent ceasefire, disarmament of armed groups, and roadmap for economic integration between the two nations. Also in attendance were the presidents of Angola, Burundi, Kenya, and Togo. There was also representatives from Uganda, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. On the surface, it looked like a moment of hope, a symbolic reset for the Great Lakes region. African leaders, foreign dignitaries, journalists, and a global audience watched as hands were shaken, documents were signed, and the applause filled the room. But we all know that the devil is in the details, and we need to take a look at the details of the deal itself before we celebrate this. And the truth is, behind the speeches, the celebration, lies a story about power, resources, and the very future of Africa.
Today we commit to stopping decades of violence and bloodshed and to begin a new era of harmony and cooperation between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda.
So let's give some credit where credit is due. A group of African nations came together in public alongside a major global superpower, at least to declare the commitment to peace. And I personally welcome any step that ends or even slows the cycle of death and displacement in the region. You know, that's a good thing for the continent of Africa. If Donald Trump is able to actually bring an end to this conflict by acting as a mediator and create something that resembles lasting peace, then I guess even if some resources are extracted, there still may be room for economic development and growth in the region, because conflict prevents that kind of thing. And at the end of the day, that is something every African should want to see. However, that is a big if. Since the original deal that was signed just a few months ago by representatives of the DRC and Rwanda, there's essentially been no change on the ground. Well, apart from that of American companies moving into the region and claiming more. There's been no meaningful ceasefire, no reduction in violence, nothing that reflects the promises that were already made. Remember when Trump was asking for the Nobel Peace Prize? No matter how much he says he's ended 8 wars, there's still conflict going on in a number of them. Gaza is still going on, even though it's now sort of deemed as something Trump fixed, and the same situation is occurring right now in DRC. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what happens after today. Trump spent much of his speech praising the wonderful people of Africa, of course, but it's difficult to take seriously when only days earlier he referred to the people of Somalia as garbage. And I predicted when he said it that he would suddenly change his tone into one of loving African people when this deal is signed, and that's exactly what happened.
They are amazing people, and they had stories to tell me that were incredible. Really fascinating in so many different ways. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries too.
The thing is, Rwanda is part of the East African community as well as Somalia. There are large Somali communities all throughout East Africa, including Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, all represented in that room. So when Trump stands on stage celebrating Africa, it becomes hard to trust the sincerity of those words, especially when his public comments are so inconsistent and so often insulting, and only a few days earlier. Trump also returned again and again to the subject of minerals and resources.
Today, the United States is also signing our own bilateral agreements with the Congo and Rwanda that will unlock new opportunities for the United States to access critical minerals and provide economic benefits for everybody. And we'll be involved with sending some of our biggest and greatest companies over to the two countries. And we're going to take out some of the rare earth and take out some of the assets and pay, and everybody's going to make a lot of money.
He even highlighted rare earths, which are at the center of a major struggle between the USA and China right now. His own tariff policies helped trigger China's direction to limit rare earth exports, a move that caused serious problems for the United States economically and militarily. So when Trump stood on stage talking about rare earths, it played well for the American audience. It made him look like a deal maker who is securing vital resources for the country. But much like the peace agreement itself, the devil is in the details. The part that almost no one mentions is that the United States does not have the capacity to actually refine rare earths at scale, at least nothing like China does. So China still dominates that process completely. So even if the United States gains access to the raw materials directly, China still holds most of the leverage. The value is not in extraction itself per se, but in extraction plus refining, value addition. And that is why celebrating raw mineral access shouldn't be seen as a victory, even from an African perspective in this deal here. In a recent video, I shared the comments of a major African banking CEO.
Just outside on one of the tables there, you had something Bloomberg had done that says 76% of cobalt is gotten out of DRC in Congo. So I went quickly to see what raw cobalt is about $880. Refined and fully processed is about, on the London Metal Exchange this morning, is over 42,000. So you're talking $880 to $42,000 raw to refined. And DRC Congo has no play in that conversation.
That is a gap that has kept Africa poor for generations. So for me, that is a major part of how we should actually frame a deal like this. Rwanda and DRC have a 30-year history of conflict, a conflict that has cost Africa dearly. While Africans fight, the rest of the world walks away with 90% of the value of Africa's mineral wealth. A cynical person could look at this situation and imagine Trump laughing behind the scenes. These people, garbage people, won't stop fighting and killing each other the way he implied when he insulted Somalia 2 days ago. All I need to do is offer some military support and I can secure access to raw minerals they cannot even refine themselves. I know I could invite the leaders to the White House as well, give them a big moment on stage, make them feel important. But after the photos and the pomp and ceremony is over, the extraction continues quietly and endlessly. Quite frankly, when you look at it from this cynical perspective, it becomes a little bit embarrassing for Africa as a whole. I also found it very interesting that a representative from the UAE was present and publicly acknowledged by Trump on stage. During the ceremony, Kenya's President William Ruto asked Trump to turn his attention to the conflict in Sudan.
I want to ask you respectfully, Mr. President, that in your quest for global peace, to support efforts to resolve the humanitarian catastrophe in Sudan.
This moment stood out because it is widely documented that the United Arab Emirates is complicit in that conflict, providing support to the RSF, who are committing atrocities and war crimes that is now very well documented for everyone to see. The UAE has become increasingly active across Africa in general, expanding its military, economic, and political influence as far as it can. So their presence at this event raises important questions. What conversations were happening behind the scenes? Is there a link between the United States, the UAE, and what's going on in Sudan right now? So you could interpret the UAE's presence in two ways. The most generous interpretation is that they, along with the East African community leaders, were there to encourage an end to the Sudan crisis. A more troubling interpretation might be that the United States is quietly endorsing, or maybe publicly endorsing or tolerating, the UAE's involvement in Sudan. We don't know the facts, so I'll leave it up to you to come to your own conclusions about what you think about that. But one thing is for sure, I will be watching this situation very closely. So there in the meeting, both Félix Tshisekedi and Kagame had their moments on stage to speak. And whether you support Kagame or not, there was one point he made that I genuinely agree with.
If this agreement falters and things do not work out as they are supposed to, the responsibility will not lie with President Trump, but with ourselves. It's up to us in Africa, working with our partners to consolidate and expand this peace.
The responsibility of peace rests within African leadership. Whether you agree with him or not, whether you like his policies or not, whether you think he's a bad actor or good actor or not, I believe this statement is a true statement. And I would add something of my own. The unity of Africa is also the responsibility of Africa. When we are divided, we create a perfect opportunity for the West to step in and broker deals like this. And those peace deals they broker always come with strings attached. Why couldn't we get together with the African Union, with ourselves, in the region, on the soil, and sort this out for ourselves? It's a big question that I do not find any satisfaction for. If Africa was unified, if Africa could resolve its own conflicts and negotiate its own peace agreements, then at least any strings attached would remain in the continent. Any benefits to be gained would stay within Africa. It is time that we understand this. Otherwise, we are going to remain trapped in cycles where conflicts tear us apart and some Western savior steps up to claim the glory and the benefits. This is the price that Africa pays for its own division. I would love to know what you guys think out there. Please leave your thoughts in the comments section. But if you have nothing to say, would it be too much if I asked you to write the words, peace without hidden costs? It just lets me know that you watched the video to the end, you like what I'm doing, you like the channel, and you want me to continue. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.